All right, part two. You ever heard of something called cortisol? It's a stress hormone. It makes people gain weight, especially like the stubborn fat around the belly and hips and buns. It kind of hits men and women in different places. And what cortisol is the way our bodies work. If we feel stressed, if we feel antagonized, our body only thinks this is happening for one of two reasons. There's not enough food to eat. Something's trying to eat us. Our body has no concept of the fact that we got to work late this weekend to, file our reports by Monday. It's got no concept of midterms. The only thing that could possibly be bothering us from a biological standpoint is not enough food or something's trying to eat us, okay? And your body has a very ingenious mechanism for fixing this, which is cortisol. It's this hormone that comes out that builds up fat so that you have an energy reserve, so that if a drought hits, you'll be able to survive, or if you need to be able to convert it into energy because you're running from a bear or a pack of wolves, you can do that too. So that's why when you're in a constant state of stress, just that alone will make you start to pack on pounds, right? It's actually bad for you. It stresses your system. Well, no pun intended, it stresses your system. To constantly be in this state of anxiety, to constantly be in this state of worry. And we talked about this kind of with the future. For what? For what? What are you really worried about? What are you actually afraid of? What is the absolute worst case scenario that's going to happen from something that you're up against, something that you're facing? And can you handle the absolute worst case scenario, right? Like let's say you're going for a job and you're really worried as to whether or not you're going to get this job. Now, first of all, my brothers and sisters that are fans of the law of attraction know, just being stressed and worried about not getting the job does not help. You're actually pushing it further away from you. So you really want to think as positive as possible. But not only that, we won't even talk about the law of attraction just now. If you're worried that you won't get this job, all right, what's going to happen if you don't get the job? You didn't get the job. It just means you have to get another job. Now, where your mind may go, where you may choose to allow it to go, is, well, if I don't get a job, then I won't pay my bills. If I can't pay my bills, I'll lose my car, I'll be homeless, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but cut all that off. Cut all of that off. What's actually happening? What's really the case here? You applied for a job that you will or will not get. That is it. Okay? Everything else is what you're choosing to add to it. It's the meaning that you're choosing to attach to it. Buddha said attachment is the root of all suffering. And this is one of the things that he was getting at. You can choose to interpret, just like Shakespeare said, you can choose to interpret whether or not an event is good or bad. Okay? Like I can tell you just from my business life, I've gotten, this close to 4 or 5 multi-million-dollar business deals, like deals that if they'd closed, I never would have had to work again in my life. And for whatever reason, they didn't manifest. And, there's an instinct to want to be like, well, why? What happened? What did I do wrong? Oh, why, God, why hast thou forsaken me? Yeah, I don't really do any of that. But I can tell you, let's just say I had a huge deal that almost closed right before the economic bubble burst, with the banks and real estate investments and stuff. And it may be I would have made all that money and bought a nice house and made, reasonable financial investments. Everything would have collapsed and I would have been totally wiped out. And then maybe I would have really lost everything versus still being, just where I am. Maybe. I don't know. The thing is, I choose to attach either a positive meaning or no meaning at all to it. Okay? It's like, I think we've talked about this before, being committed but not being attached. If you're stressed about something, it's because you are attached to it being in a certain way. Okay? If you're having trouble with your relationship or with your loved one, if you don't like what they're doing, it's because you are attached to them being a certain way that they need to change. And maybe it's you that needs to change. Maybe you need to compromise. It depends on what it is that they're doing. If you've got a husband that's become a heroin addict, I'm not saying that, oh yeah, you should just accept them being on heroin. Far from it. It may be that it's time for you to get out of that situation. It may be. I don't know. You got to work at it. Or talk to me about it. I'll tell you, how you can work at it. But a lot of times we get hung up on, he should be like this. She should be like this. Everything should be a certain way. And the fact is, there is no should. Things should be how they are. Because that's how they are. All you can do is have a vision of what you want, be clear on what you want, have a plan and take action to create what you want, but then not be overly attached or overly invested in what actually happens. Okay? I know that's a challenge, but believe me, if you can do this, this is the secret to a happy life. This is why, for the most part, I'm never really upset about anything, because I have enough trust and enough faith in the universe that the best thing will always happen, and it will always happen in the right amount of time. The absolute best thing will always happen, and it will always happen in the right amount of time. Now, does that mean that I don't ever get disappointed? I do sometimes, not often, but I do sometimes. In fact, I think I just shared on my blog, which is blog.peacelovemoney.com, or I've syndicated lots of places like Tumblr, WordPress, Facebook, so you can find my blog anywhere. I was sharing that, I don't often get stressed out. I really don't. And when I do get stressed, I take the time to kind of just sort of apply my own stuff, the things that I share with you here, the things that I share in my articles on theexaminer.com, because I kind of try and practice what I preach. Don't want to be a hypocrite. Don't like hypocrites. So I don't often share a dialogue with anybody when I'm going through my own challenges. But I believe I was sharing, it's been a challenging period for me lately. There's some things that I've been working on that haven't quite manifested. And it kind of gets a little tiring. And I was just sharing with my people on my blog that, I would like a pleasant surprise. I would like something that I hadn't anticipated to show up that's just wonderful. Okay? But that's the extent of my ranting. That right there, what you just heard, is the most you will ever hear me cry or boo-hoo about anything. Because I'm 100% certain that all I can do is all I can do. All I can do is be in motion. All I can do is continuing to create and continuing to help and continuing to give. And I know that the universe will return it to me. If it does not happen in the time that I would like it to happen, that does not mean it is not happening. Does that make sense? So, if there's something that's stressing you out, step back and look at it and ask yourself, is this really a big deal? Is this really worth being upset about? Like I hear people talk all the time. It's like, oh, so much drama. Yeah, not really. You probably don't. Not really. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, maybe you. Your drama's real. Your life is, you have lots of enemies and backstabbers and stuff. I mean, you're different. But most people, the drama is kind of self-imposed. It's kind of self-inflicted. The stress you feel, the anxiety you feel, for the most part, is something you've created. Okay? Now, if you're in a situation that's not working, if you're in a situation that's not making you happy, then you've got two choices. Two. Change it or deal with it. That's it. That's the menu. Change it or deal with it. Okay? Now, just stay in it but complain all the time is not an option. That's not an option. Change it, deal with it. Now, when I talk about change, let's say if you're in a relationship, change might mean go to counseling. Change might mean learn to compromise, learn how to say you're sorry. Or change might mean leave the relationship. There are situations that are unsalvageable. They exist. Same thing in your work. It may mean change your attitude and your mindset and how you're being with your coworkers, or it may mean start looking for a new job. That's fine. Any of this falls into change. Or deal with it. Accept it. It is how it is. People do what they do. They are how they are. You don't have to attach any negative value to it. You don't have to attach any, excessive belief. And above all else, you don't have to make things about you. For the most part, people do what they do. They're not out to hurt you. They're not out to screw you over. They're not out to stab you in the back. They're fighting their own battle. Okay? Now, I'm about out of time, but I'm going to go ahead and shoot my other episode. I wonder if I've said all I have to say about this topic. I think I could talk the rest of the day about it. So I'm going to stop and think. In the next episode, I might talk more about this. Actually, you know what I'm going to talk about? I'm going to talk about emotions in the next episode. But I'm going to stop this now. I love you. You're fantastic. Find me. PeaceLoveMoney.com, Facebook, MySpace, Twitter, YouTube. I'm everywhere. I love you. You're great. And relax. Okay, bye-bye.